Howdy YouTube, Murphy Firearms Training here, looking at step 3 for reloading with a single stage press. So we deprimed and sized, we picked our powder, we set up our powder measure, we expanded our case mouth, we reprimed, and we put our powder charge. So I've just got 6 rounds here, enough to fill a Ruger Vaquero with a powder charge. This our third and final die. This die does 2 things. First, it seats the bullet to the proper depth, and then it roll crimps the brass to hold that bullet in place, okay? And again, this is not set up. The last thing I loaded with this was 454 Assault, and so it's not set for 45 Colt, so I get to play with it. Yay! So, the 2 things we're going to do, first we have to set our bullet seating depth. And so, here's our bullet. This is the bullet we're going to be using, and it's just a simple lead flat nose bullet, 225 grain. We're using 230 grain load data. And the way this works, this knob on top is your bullet seating depth. And then the depth of the die in the machine is the roll crimp. The roll crimp is like right here in this die, and it's set. And so the further you turn this, the further down that roll crimp goes. So the way we do this is we're going to go ahead and put an empty brass in here. And because we've expanded the case mouth, that bullet will sit in there real nice, just like that, and won't shave off any lead. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to leave this die way out, okay, on purpose. We're going to leave it way out, so somewhere like that. And we're going to use this guy here to set the bullet seating depth. And so we're going to go all the way down till we feel resistance. And that's, there we go. We expanded the case mouth. You hear it grabbing. That's when you know you expanded the case mouth too far, as it barely fits in the die, okay? And we're going to push, and notice I'm just going to kind of slowly go until I make contact with the bullet. None yet. Okay, let's see. All right, so I made contact with the bullet. You see how it straightened up this time. So I made contact with the bullet, and I'm going to turn this down a little further and push it again, okay? A little bit further and push it again. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to seat this so that it's above that wax ring and right at that shoulder where it turns to a cone, or right below that, okay? Either one's fine. All right, so we'll turn this again, push it a little deeper, okay? Turn this again, push it a little deeper. And we're going to go until I'm happy with where that bullet's sitting, okay? I'm going to go until I'm happy with where that bullet's sitting. So I'm going to stop. I'm happy with that. That's where I want that bullet to sit. So you see how it's just below where the cone starts, okay? So that's the proper depth. Now I'm going to undo the work I just did. I'm going to totally screw this thing almost completely out, okay? That sounds crazy, but I'll show you why. So you did your bullet seating. You've got this. This is your shining example of what you want it to be. Screw that out. And now I'm going to run my press all the way up, and I'm going to screw this die in until I feel resistance. So I'll screw this die in, and I know this lock ring's in the wrong place because I know I loaded a longer cartridge last time. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen that lock ring, and I'm going to screw this die in until I feel it hit the brass. And I'll just turn, and there it is. It just hit. I felt it hit. And so we're going to turn this in about 1/4 of a turn and press, okay? And turn this in, and I may have just hit the bullet seater, actually. No. Okay? So we're going to turn that out a little further just to be safe, okay? And turn that in and press. Too far, okay? It's a feel thing, okay? Press, pull it out. Let's take a look. Almost there. Turn it in a little further. Press. There we go. Beautiful, okay? So if you look at this, you'll actually see that let me get up here and show you. You'll see that this guy is now pressed into the bullet, okay? Hold my hand up so it'll focus. It's pressed into the bullet. That's a roll crimp, okay? And it's literally just an adjustment where you turn it in a little bit, run the press up, check your progress. When you get that nice tight roll crimp, just like that, you're done. Okay, so put this back in, push it all the way up, set your lock ring. Okay, the roll crimp is now at the proper location. The roll crimp is at the proper location. With the press all the way up, turn your bullet seating knob until you touch. And now your bullet seating is at the depth you set earlier, and your roll crimp is the proper depth to make that round. So I'll take another round, and this will be hard to get into this die because I expanded the mouth too much, and that's one of the warnings I give people who are new to loading is not to expand too much. Okay, all the way down, and voila, nice roll crimped round. Okay, so grab a bullet. Well, if I can keep from dropping it, grab a bullet, run it into the press, all the way down, nice roll crimped. And it's very repeatable, very, very repeatable. And so you just, once you get this set, you're rolling. You're ready to reload. Okay? So that's an option. Make sure your press is down pretty tight because you use, well, I use a lot of pressure. Maybe I'm just heavy-handed, but I use a lot of pressure. I make sure I run this press all the way down every time. And you get a nice lead cowboy action bullet 445 Colt. Okay? So, that's it. That's how you do it. So, I'm going to come back and show you one other thing that might help you out. So, we're loading this particular bullet. Let's say that we had some previously loaded, so this is previously loaded lead round noses. So it's a 230 grain focus camera, 230 grain lead round nose. Okay? And we have a bunch of these bullets. Okay, we have a bunch of these bullets, and we want to switch it up. Now, that is a lead cone nose. This is a lead round nose, slightly different seating depth, maybe even a slightly different crimp distance. And assume, of course, that you've changed your powder and all of that. Okay, so if you have, now I showed you how to set up if you didn't have a previous bullet. You get your depth right, you get that right. Okay, if you have a previous bullet, you will screw this out. And fortunately, the crimp grooves should be the same. But you'll actually take that previous bullet, that bullet that you know you like, that you know you want, and you will put it in, okay? And you will twist it down till you get your crimp groove, okay? So there's your crimp groove, all right? And then you'll twist this down till you, okay, on your previous bullet, okay? So take a bullet of known quality. This could be factory ammo. Let's say this was a 45 Colt with a gold dot or an XTP hollow point. Factory ammo. And I wanted to replicate that ammo. Put that factory ammo or that previous reload in here. Set this die up with the press all the way up. Now, take that same tip that you just set this for. Boom. It'll work. So if you have a previous example, so if I had some previous ones of these, or let's say, oh man, someone just came along and screwed up my bullet seating die. I take my lead cone nose, right? Again, back this out all the way down. First things first, set your crimp groove, okay? And your crimp groove, right, you're always gonna get that nice and tight, okay? So there's your crimp groove, and then bullet seating stem. And now it's reset for that round. So if you have a previous example, this die is really, really easy to set up, okay? Now, last thing. This is the last thing I need to show you guys before we load en masse, before we decide, okay, we're good. We're absolutely good. We have to do one other thing, okay? So here goes. We're going to take our loading manual. So here's our loading manual. I'm going to hold this up so you can see it with the camera. Okay. And here's 45 Colt. Okay. 45 Colt. And it gives a cartridge length of 1.600 inches. Okay. 1.600 inches. Now, that is typically in your loading manuals going to be the overall length that you're kind of striving for. So we're going to take our dial caliper, if I can keep from dropping my round. We're going to take our dial caliper here, and we're going to measure. Okay? And I'm going to come over here so you can see this. Okay? That is 1.614, 1.614. Okay? What tends to be printed in the manuals is the minimum overall cartridge length. Minimum overall cartridge length. The idea being that you shouldn't seat it any lower, because if you seat it any lower, you run the risk of overpressuring the cartridge. So, I always check that before I start loading massive quantities of ammunition. So, these 6 bullets are all at 1.614, which is above the minimum overall length. And so I can go ahead and just start loading. I can size 50, prime 50, powder charge for 50, seat the bullets for 50, bam, box of ammo. The other thing you can do is a lot of times what I will do is I'll actually take this die. And by the way, once that die is set, if you've got your lock ring set and everything set, I can take this out, set it on the table, go back to my sizing die, and when I go back to this, it's ready to go because that lock ring is set, this handle's set, nothing's moved. Same thing with my powder measure, everything's set. And so I can put this in, and what I tend to do is if I have, say, 200 once fired brass, I will go ahead and size and prime all 200. Boom, I'll just size and prime all 200. After I size and prime those 200, I'll set them in a box, ready to go. I'll put a piece of painter's tape on them that say sized and primed, ready to go. And then I'll put my powder measure on here and I'll do 50. And I'll put those 50 in here, end up so the powder doesn't spill. I'll seat bullets on those 50. I'll put them in a box. And so then I do the next 2 steps 50 at a time. But I can size and deprime and reprime 2, 3, 4, 500 if I want to at one go. So anyway, that's how we set up the Lee Classic Cast or any of the Lee single stage presses. I like this one because it's got a long handle, so it's a lot of leverage. It's great for rifle cartridges. It's great for magnums like the 460 Smith & Wesson or the 500 Smith & Wesson, the 454 Casull, in any of the big bore cartridges, 44 Magnum, 450 Bushmaster for rifles, 4570 Government. Those types of cartridges, you really need a lot of leverage, and so this press gives me a lot of leverage for resizing those brass, which is the hardest operations, the sizing operations. So anyway, that is how we set up. That is step 3 to reloading handgun brass. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, let me know, and I'll try my best to answer them.